What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. And the New York Giants, the new savior, is in town. Joe Schoen, the general manager hired last offseason. We love him. So do you. Let's talk about him. Today, we're going to discuss why we believe that Joe Schoen has really reinvented the New York Giants way and set them up not only for a really great present, really great 2023 season, but beyond that, a really bright future in store for the New York Giants with Joe Schoen leading this team and leading the front office in collaboration with Brian Daboll as our head coach. We're feeling really confident. So today we just kind of want to discuss how different the philosophy has been for the New York Giants this past season compared to the seasons prior and how it's setting the Giants up to just have a really bright future, like I said. So we're going to discuss that. But before we dive into all that today, make sure to leave a like if you do enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode and comment your thoughts on the topic down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And of course, go ahead and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Fireside Giants. Check us out on Facebook as well. And if you're new to the Threads space, I think we're on there as well at Fireside Giants on Threads. Go follow us there and get us started. Not sure what to make of the whole Threads situation, but we'll figure it out together, Giants family. So without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And give me your thoughts on Joe Schoen and why you think he's the savior.
I'm doing great, man. And look, there's a couple things I want to get off my chest right off the bat. One, Anthony looking ultra Italian today. If you haven't ever seen a man making pizza in Italy, it is Anthony at this time. When you're talking about Threads, the world doesn't need any more freaking social media platforms. We don't need any more of these. And Threads, we're going to be on it. We have no freaking choice, but do I want to be on it? No. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, they're all taking up all my damn time. The last thing I want to do is go to another damn freaking social media platform where it's the same exact concept as Twitter, but they're freaking monitoring people's negative behavior and they're trying to spin it in a positive way, and they're taking on all of your data. If you've seen how much data Threads is taking from you, they're going to know your middle name of your second grandparent from 100,000 years ago. They don't even know, like, they're taking everything. Like, they want every little strand of data from you. It's insane. It's pissing me off. I don't want to deal with it, but nonetheless, we are a sports media company, so unless we have to be there. But with that being said, Joe Schoen has a lot more of a positive kind of strand in today's segment, and I definitely am excited to discuss the value that he's brought to this team and the value that he continues to find out on the free agent market via trades, acquisitions, signings, the draft. This is a guy who has modernized our front office completely, and it's been a beautiful thing to witness from a third-party perspective, just kind of watching, over the last couple of years, guys. If you've been with us for a couple of years now, you've known that we've seen, the Pat Shurmurs and the Joe Judges and the Dave Gettlemans of the world. We've learned what it looks like to fail. We've learned what it looks like to make bad moves, to make bad financial decisions. We've learned a lot. Even when we were positive, we were excited. We had a lot of optimism. It shot us in the foot. And ultimately, I think we learned a lot of valuable lessons because of it. Now, is Joe Schoen guaranteed to be successful? No. But what we can say is a lot of the things that he's doing now is exactly the opposite of what the previous GM did, the previous head coaches decided, and the chemistry that Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen have is unparalleled. We haven't seen something like this in quite some time. And based on the fact that a lot of his moves are kind of directly the opposite of what we've seen in the past, it's safe to say that they're probably better than the ones that we have made in the past. And looking at Gettleman, the big contracts he signed, the guys that didn't pan out. Remember the Patrick Omame guy? 3 years, 15 million? They caught him after like 1 year, maybe less. Bad deals. And look at a lot of the contracts that he handed out that didn't end up panning out, or the drafts that were just completely destroyed and decimated because of a lack of just proper evaluation and finding good talent. I think the Giants have done a lot better draft in the last 2 years. Now, last year, obviously, was kind of an anomaly because most of our rookie class got injured. Can't determine those things. Can't expect them. Definitely just out there in terms of, reasons why they weren't able to contribute at a really high level. But we saw what the coaching did. We saw a lot of these things. How a lot of these kind of variables develop based on the fact that we made and won a postseason game with like one of the worst rosters in football. Like, that's pretty impressive in and of itself. But looking at Joe Schoen, Anthony, I want to ask you this. Looking at the moves he's made, the value selections, the value trades, Darren Waller for a third-round pick, Paris Campbell incentive-laden deal, Raheem Nunez-Roche incentive-laden, A'Shawn Robinson, finding these really good players and making them take on deals that really help them maximize their value, have them something to play for. I find that to be a really good method in terms of finding players that ultimately have a lot of potential left to tap. But the Giants aren't trying to pay top dollar for them. So they managed to convince them, hey, we'll pay you. You got to earn it, though. In terms of those type of value acquisitions, why do you think that's a really beneficial thing for this Giants team? Personally, I think this is one of the best things Joe Schoen has brought to this entire organization, is convincing players to bet on themselves and, playing conservative with their salary space instead of signing big contracts and then sticking yourself with a guy like Kenny Galladay, who obviously didn't pan out. We were excited about it at the time, but again, we're not GMs. It's their job to make these decisions, and ultimately they didn't pan out. What are your thoughts on Joe Schoen's decision-making there over the past 2 off seasons, really?
Well, I think that what Joe Schoen does is looks for value. He doesn't want to ever overpay. He doesn't want to lock himself into any contracts that he's going to regret. So he goes into the bargain bin and he finds some good players. I mean, the Giants got a lot of contributors last season, whether that be on the waiver wire, midseason free agent pickups. I mean, think about Landon Collins making his return to the New York Giants. First of all, he said that he would never play for the Giants again as long as Dave Gettleman was there. He returns to the Giants to play a brand new position and a brand new defense with brand new management, goes out there, gets a pick six against Indianapolis in Week 17, so the Giants can clinch a postseason berth. Think about how great that story is, and think about how underrated that signing was. Midseason, the final, Landon Collins just sitting out there in free agency, add him to the team, and really just bolster this team into propelling them into the postseason there. So I loved that signing. It's just one of many. Jihad Ward, another one that's really underrated, low key. Fabian Moreau. All of these guys are just value guys, bargain bin shopping, and Joe Schoen is really damn good at it. He finds deals. He doesn't get locked into these contracts that he instantly regrets. I mean, is every contract going to be perfect? No, but Joe Schoen does a really good job of finding those prove-it guys, those guys that you could sign to one-year contracts or midway through the season just to get them to contribute to a specific role and prove themselves worthy of maybe getting a second contract one day. So I think that's one of the things that Joe Schoen is really good at. And you mentioned Kenny Galladay, right? That's a standout contract from the Dave Gettleman era that really haunts this team. But I will say, Joe Schoen's done a phenomenal job of getting the dead cap off the books. Right now, the Giants only have $22 million in dead cap. Now, that kind of sounds like a lot, and sure, it kind of is a lot, but it's all dead cap from the Dave Gettleman era that he's just got to sweep out of here. Kadarius Toney worth $4 million of that. Kenny Galladay worth almost $15 million of that. And then Sterling Shepard with $5 million of that, but he's around for the foreseeable future as well. They'll get that number off the books, but the dead money was a big factor to the failure of the New York Giants over the last several seasons. If you think back to the Nate Solder contract and how much dead money that left on the books for the New York Giants. I mean, the 22 million number, that sounds like a lot, but that number used to be in the 50s for the Giants during Dave Gettleman's reign as general manager. So the Giants have done a great job here managing their salary cap health. In fact, Pro Football Focus has them ranked as the number 10 team in the NFL in terms of cap health rank. They are ranked number 10 in terms of salary cap health, and they have number 2 ranking on active draft capital, meaning the majority of this Giants team is built around draft picks, which is the complete opposite of what Dave Gettleman did. And even Jerry Reese did. We all remember that magical 2016 postseason run. The Giants, well, they didn't make it far into the postseason, but they made it to the postseason. And that was a big accomplishment for us in 2016, right? We all remember that. But the problem with that team is that it was built solely on free agent signings. And then it all collapsed in 2017 because these free agents tied up too much of the money at the top end of the salary cap and got hurt and underperformed. Jerry Reese made that mistake. Dave Gettleman made the same mistake a couple years later, but Joe Schoen has refused to make that mistake so far. We haven't seen him go ahead and sign a DeAndre Hopkins or go hand out exorbitant amounts of money to free agents. He's paying those in-house guys, right? Like he's paying Daniel Jones, but that's an in-house guy. That makes sense. Dexter Lawrence, you got to pay him. Andrew Thomas contract coming up, but don't expect the Giants to go out into free agency and hand the guy who's never been in the building $30 million per year. It's not going to happen under Joe Schoen's reign as general manager. And that's one of the reasons that I'm so confident in him. He's frugal. He's careful with where he spends his money, and he prefers to spend it on in-house talent. New York Giants draft picks, not Jacksonville Jaguar draft picks, not Detroit Lions draft picks. He's not going around the league finding other teams' good players that are hitting free agency for one reason or another. He's paying the Giants players that have earned the right to be here. And that's all part of the culture, earning the right to be here. Everything, you have to earn everything in this new New York Giants system, right? Like all of these players, they're not given starting jobs. They have to earn them. Sterling Shepard, you might assume in the last regime, he would instantly be penned in as a starter. He's been with the team longer than anybody. He's an established wide receiver in this league. But instead, the Giants told him, 1 year prove it deal, earn your spot on this roster. You're not even safe for this upcoming regular season. So think about the difference in mindset here. So that's why I'm really excited about what Joe Schoen's doing. Again, the deals that he hands out, how careful he is with the money, and the culture. I think the culture is a really important factor to hit on here. The new culture that he and Brian Daboll have established, everything is earned, nothing is given, and also this team feels like a family again. It's been a while since we've had that Giants way, since Tom Coughlin had all the boys out to play bowling and everything during training camp in 2007, right before the Giants went on to win that magical Super Bowl 42. The Giants went out bowling that offseason. Tom Coughlin really created a family vibe, and that's the vibe that I think Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll are building here as well. So, Alex, moving past the conversation about the money side of it, all of the salary cap minutia, what do you think about this culture that Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll are building here? Because for me, the New York Giants feel like a family again.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, you just kind of feel what they're doing here, and it comes down to the people they bring into the building. You remember all the holes that we used to have, all of the kind of, the leaks and the rumors that would come out and the stuff that, was coming out right ahead of the draft. Like there was a lot of people that they could trust in the building. And he did a good job, like sending out feelers, like sending out information and seeing like what came back, like seeing what made it through to identify who was the rat, like who was giving away info. And ultimately they figured it out and they let go of a couple people and then they replaced them with their own. Brandon Brown, stellar hire from the Philadelphia Eagles. That guy's going to be a GM in the next 2 or 3 years. Like I would bet on it. These type of guys, they're bringing in people who not only have proven track records, but have a lot of upside. They have a lot to learn and they're willing to learn and they're making good decisions. And I think that's really good. And a lot of them are so young. Like I love the fact that we're bringing in these young guys that are away from nepotism, that are not older, like Gettleman's era, and they're just modernizing in the current game and they understand the current trends. That's the thing. Like in today's NFL, if you're not on the current trends, you get left behind. It's not because the other trends don't work. They're just outdated. As the NFL changes, positional value changes, this changes, that changes. And ultimately, Joe Schoen and the coaching staff he's put together and the front office he's put together have done a really good job identifying those trends and starting to put in motion what seems to be like a red line in the sand, like just a line in the sand. You look at Saquon Barkley's contract, like he's standing pat. Like he's showing that he's not willing to get pushed over, even though it's one of our best players, even though it's a guy that has done a lot for this organization and is a fan favorite and obviously a locker room piece that is unparalleled. And we hope that he gets an extension, at least a fair one that makes sense for both sides. But objectively speaking, let's think of it if it's another team. If it was the New York Jets, for example, and they had to make a decision on the running back position, we'd be sitting here like, yeah, like they shouldn't do that, right? Like just because it's the Giants, we obviously have a bias. We want Saquon Barkley, and I think that he's an imperative, piece to the puzzle, and I think that he can be a really nice player for us for a long time, or at least the next couple of years of his prime. I think that they're ultimately going to find a deal. They have 10 days to get it done. But Joe Schoen isn't backing down. Like he's making good decisions. And a lot of people will say, like, does that hurt his, the loyalty aspect? Does that hurt his ability to convince players to sign deals or sign incentive-laden contracts? I mean, you tell me. Seems like the culture is still pretty damn good, even though Saquon Barkley is on the fence right now. It seems like everyone's bought in, everyone's happy, everyone's feeding back into this entire culture, this entire family. And he tends to keep those type of guys around. You see some of the leaders on this team. Like you see Sterling Shepard, they brought him back on a 1-year deal. Like he's an energizer bunny. He's a leader in the clubhouse. Jihad Ward, they could have easily let him go. They're bringing him back too. He's been a leader, an impact player, a mean guy. Raheem Nunez-Roche, he's a really good locker room presence. He is a really good energy guy, and he is a full effort. He knows how to win. He knows what success looks like. Won a Super Bowl with the Buccaneers. And then Ashawn Robinson, a mean-looking dude. If you ever seen a picture of him, man, he looks mean. I would not want to go up against him in the trenches. And he's coming from a championship caliber team in the Rams 2 years ago. So, you tell me. The type of guys that we're bringing in are championship caliber guys because they know what it takes to win. They know what a great team looks like. They know what a good culture looks like. They know what good coaching looks like. And they're willing to bet on themselves on this roster because, one, there's opportunities to be had. And two, they can leverage this opportunity into long-term deals. Paris Campbell, what do you think he's doing coming off a career season, leveraging an opportunity to win a starting job here? Especially with Wan'Dale Robinson working his way back. He's making good progress. But Paris Campbell's going to start instantly. He can do a lot of stuff for this offense, and the Giants made a really good decision bringing him in. But as you mentioned, for the culture, I mean, it just feels different. It isn't like we've felt this before with Joe Judge. You remember like the picture with him like running in the dirt, running in the mud. The big difference, the big variable, in my opinion, between what Joe Judge did and the rah-rah mentality there and what Joe Schoen and Brian Dable did, one of them did it through the media and the other guy did it on the field, right? Like you see what Joe Judge did to the media. Oh, it was the pictures and the quotes and the bullshit. We remember it. You remember it. I remember being super excited about all the crap he was saying. Brian Dable says absolutely nothing. Not a word from this man. He goes out there, coaches his ass off, gets wins together, despite the roster looking like a complete, utter garbage patch. You know what I mean? Like, this is exactly the difference that I'm talking about from past to present. One of them did it through the media. One of them did it through quotes and just saying, and the other is doing it through action. Joe Schoen's doing it through action. The culture, is not a culture of saying, it's a culture of doing. And I think that is what you kind of said before regarding nobody's job is safe on this team. Everyone's got to earn it. And that's the type of culture you want to build, especially for a winning organization.
Yeah, and even just think about former first-round pick Kadarius Toney. His job was not safe. The Giants very easily could have said, "Oh, this team has invested a lot. This is a first-round pick. We have to put him in the starting lineup." Nope, they didn't do that, and then they just went ahead and traded him. So I think that it all builds into that culture narrative that we're discussing here. And I like the points that you made about Brian Dable versus Joe Judge. Joe Judge was great at getting in the face of the media and convincing fans to buy in, but I don't think he convinced players to buy in. That's the big difference between Joe Schoen and Brian Dable. Not only have the fans bought into Brian Dable, the players so clearly have as well. When we talked to Bobby Okereke, he mentioned that he signed with the team because his friends were telling him, "You want to go play with Brian Dable." He said that he called friends that he had at the Buffalo Bills and they said, "Go play for Dable. You're going to love Brian Dable." So then he went ahead and signed with the New York Giants, and Brian Dable had a huge part to play in that. Brian Dable's had a huge part to play in a lot of these signings that the Giants have made, and really just in terms of bringing this culture of this team together, as we've mentioned, and bringing this team to the quality that it's at right now. So Brian Dable is a huge part of this equation, but Joe Schoen has done an excellent job as well, building that culture alongside Brian Dable, and I'm really excited about it, and I really do believe that good things are in store for the New York Giants this upcoming season. Everybody's confident going into this year. Daniel Jones looks really confident going into the season, so I'm excited to see what he has in store, and also wrote an article this morning about Saquon Barkley. His trainer spoke with the New York Post recently, and I thought he gave some really interesting insight, saying that Saquon is training really hard, is almost being more specific in his training and addressing specific things because he's not with the team. So it's kind of working to his benefit, but is really eager to get back with the team and was sorely missing the fact that he wasn't able to be at OTAs. So I think there's big things in store for this Giants offense in particular, but it's going to be really, really exciting. Can't wait for this upcoming season. Of course, can't wait to continue to cover everything related to the New York Giants right here on Fireside Giants. So make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you are new and ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. Comment your thoughts on my hair down below in the comment section. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Also, go ahead and follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, and now the newly created threads at Fireside Giants. And go check us out on Facebook as well. But without further ado, we will catch you all in the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.